Hi everybody, my name is Harpreet. I'm one of the Elina Doctors. I want to thank you for coming and joining us today. Today is a Q&A session and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I think for this first session we'll just take questions that people have already put up on our Facebook group and some really good questions there. I'll try and get through as many as I can. And you're welcome to put any comments or further questions if you need to clarify. I just wanted to say that these are very general questions that I'm going to try and answer. I think any specific questions, it's best to go and speak to your doctor. You should all have your own Elina doctor, and they're the best people to give you answers specific to your circumstances. But these are really good general questions that I think will help a lot of people. So I'm going to start off with Christina's question, which she asks, how can one tell if ketosis is occurring? If one eats carbs like bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, can it harm the process of weight loss? And what's the average healthy weight loss per week on a VLCD, and what methods do you use to the clinic to teach to maintain the weight loss? So there's a lot in that one, so I'll see if I can get through most of them. I think the important thing to remember before we start is that we work on the principle that your brain defends your weight. When you try and lose weight, your brain will work very hard to return your weight back where it belongs, and that's something that's long term. It's very difficult to fix your natural defense systems. Your body recognizes a range of weight that it likes to be, and it will always try and force your weight back up again. So what we do is we use a bunch of systems to try and work together to help you lose weight. And one of the things that we use is ketosis. And we don't use intense ketosis because it's hard to stick with and probably not completely safe to do that. So we use a bunch of different things, including ketosis and behavior and exercise and medications. So we generally don't try and check if you're in ketosis, mainly because if you're losing weight, not being hungry, and you're sticking to the diet, we can be pretty confident that you are in ketosis. The keto sticks that people use aren't very accurate, and it's not really necessary to the blood test. Having said that, if you have a diet that's high in carbohydrates, you will break your ketosis. So we try and limit your carbohydrate intake during the weight loss phase to around 50, 60 or less. And once you're on your maintenance diet, we like you to be around up to the 100 mark or less, preferably. You can, of course, have keto treats and keto breaks. Carbohydrate treats and carbohydrate breaks, so you have to go out and enjoy yourself, and then know that you might have to pay for it, which means for a few days, you limit your carbohydrate intake, maybe ramp up a bit of exercise, and burn some of that excess carbohydrates off so you're not storing it, and then developing those cravings all over again. The average healthy weight loss per week, it varies so much. If you're very, very overweight, then you can expect to lose a lot more per week. It all depends on how much you have to lose. Somebody trying to lose 5 kilos is very different to somebody trying to lose 30 kilos. We think that most people should be able to achieve a good kilo a week. Some people a bit more, some a bit less. Anything more than half a kilo, if you're doing it with confidence, is perfect. Half a kilo a week, that is. So if you're going out a few times, having some breaks here and there, and doing the VLCD mostly, not being hungry and feeling comfortable, and you're losing half a kilo a week, we take that any day of the week. It's much better than losing weight faster, but struggling, fighting, and finding it really difficult. So, we don't focus so much on how much you lose, as long as you're losing it confidently. You do have to lose the weight, and obviously, if it's hard to do, we need to find ways to fix that, and you can speak to your doctor about all the tools we have to try and do that. In terms of maintaining your weight after you lose it, look, we have a slightly different view of how this has to work. Once you recognize that the body defends the weight, we recognize that once you've lost your weight, you're always going to try and put it back on. And what we feel is that people should intervene early. So when you go from your high weight down to the weight you want to be, you're going to start gradually putting on weight. And in practice, it almost always is gradual. And that's important because as soon as you hit just a few kilos above where you want to be, then you should intervene and bring that weight back down again. Rather than wait until it's back up to where it was very high and difficult, you want to work at a lower base. So instead of riding the big roller coaster of very high weight down to a low weight, then very high weight down to low weight, we get you ride the little roller coaster, so to speak. So you rise a few kilos up and then a few kilos down, a few kilos up, and you do it confidently. Knowing that your weight is going to go up is important because there's no point in feeling ashamed or disappointed when your weight goes up because we expect it to. Knowing how to fix it confidently well, using whatever tools you've used during the weight loss phase is the program. And we hope that you develop the confidence to use those and manage your weight long term doing that way. Over time, it certainly gets easier. You develop good habits, and you learn a lot about what healthy food is, what type of foods stimulate hunger, what type of foods actually reduce hunger, and you put that into practice, knowing full well that even if you do your best effort, there's a good chance you'll put on weight, and you may need to pull out your tools, maybe medications if you use them, pull out your VLAD, your low energy eating, and lose that weight again and do it with confidence. The next question is by Rachel, who's a vegetarian, and she wants to know how to include more protein in your diet. And that's a really good question. Vegetarians do it very difficult because their sources of protein tends to be high in carbohydrates. And in our diet, we try and limit that carbohydrate. So we limit some of the foods that vegetarians often use for protein, like legumes and whole grains and nuts, which are wonderful foods, but very energy dense. So to try and get more protein to vegetarians, I think we particularly use things like tofu, lean cheeses like cottage cheeses, egg whites. Egg whites are wonderful. Most vegetarians are comfortable eating that. Tofu, obviously, tempeh is wonderful. Corn, I don't know if you've heard of corn. It's a vegan protein that you can buy if fungal made or algae made. You buy it from the supermarket, and it has a mince variety and different sorts of pretend meats that are actually very good and high in protein. High protein yogurts are excellent, and we also, especially low carb varieties, and we also often suggest you use protein powders. So you can get soy-based powders. I've even seen hemp-based powders. They're actually very widely available. Any of your health food shops will have them. And that's a good way to boost up extra protein. Rachel also asks if there is a way to boost your metabolism. And that's a really interesting question because there's a lot of things out there in the market, in the chemist, which promote boosting metabolism. And we're pretty confident that those things are probably not very effective. And the evidence for that is pretty weak. So truly the only way to increase your metabolism is to raise your metabolic rate, and that means increasing your muscle mass. So resistance training, exercises, boosting some of your muscle mass because muscle is metabolically active. And interestingly, also to increase your general activity, to your the things that you do day to day, your incidental work, the walking to the shops, the cleaning the dishes, the wiping the floors. You need to become what we call a fidgeter. You need to be somebody annoying who moves and shifts all the time and waves their hands around, gets up, sits down, can't sit still. There's good evidence to show that people losing weight do become very still and do become measurably less active, and that's your body trying to conserve energy by reducing your metabolism. You can learn to become a fidgeter, be more active. It is something that most people generally either do or don't, and it's part of your systems that compensate. So you have people who are what we call energy wasters, and you see them, they just burn energy all the time, they just never stop. And then you get the energy hoarders, who they just don't burn a lot of energy, and they sniff food and they just put on weight because they're just not burning stuff well. So it does take practice, and with time you get used to doing things. Park at the furthest spot at the car park in the shopping centre and walk fast to the shops. Don't sort of find the closest spot and walk up escalators. Do things with more intensity. When you wipe the bench top, you put force into it. You don't just do a gentle wipe. You dig in there and do it well, and you have a Bluetooth headset. When you're talking on the phone, you walk. You don't sort of sit still and hold the phone. You actually put the headset on and then you do something. You can pace the room. You can mop the floors. You can weeds. You can weed the garden. Any ways you can find to try and just be more active is great. Again, it takes practice, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So the next question comes from Emma, and she asks, does a cheat day containing carbohydrates once in a while, once a week or so, ruin the momentum of weight loss? So the answer is, look, it could. So if you're very sensitive to carbohydrates, then sure, you have some carbohydrates, your brain goes, I like this stuff, and then all the cravings and everything kicks in. So it is a potential problem. The problem here is that everyone's unique, and some people have a much higher tolerance to it. They can have a small amount of carbs, and they enjoy it, and then they go back to eating low carb and get into ketosis quickly and then carry on again. So it really is a matter of trial and error. You don't want to have carbs all the time or overdo it, but I would recommend everyone have a try. I think it's good to understand your body. It's not just about losing weight. It's learning about yourself, learning about what triggers hunger, what your tolerance levels are. So it is okay to have a cheat. And in fact, because it takes a while to lose weight, it's important to have cheat times. And we particularly encourage people to have a break during birthdays or holidays or, anniversaries, important occasions, Christmas, Easter, whatever. You need to find a place and a time to say, right, I'm going to have a break. I've done well. Let me see how I go with this. I'm going to eat generally well. I'm going to try and eat low carb and keep my protein levels and fill myself and eat mindfully. But I'm going to have a break. And then if I put on some weight, it doesn't matter because I can go back to what I know works and then carry on. And knowing how to go back to something is a really important part of a program. In fact, knowing how to re-lose weight for us is just as important as losing weight, because we recognize that people will have to learn to re-lose weight. Being confident in re-losing weight, it gives people the independence to manage their weight for the rest of their lives because they know what to do. She also asked about alcohol, Emma. Alcohol is energy dense, so that's the problem with alcohol. But alcohol itself is probably not the big problem for us. It's the fact that most alcohol drinks contain a lot of carbohydrates, but not all do. So the occasional red wine is not a problem. The white drinks, the vodkas and with diet tonic, for example, or Scotch and Diet Coke, or simple for the low carb things like that, perfectly fine. You can buy low carb beers; they're fine to have. Champagne, surprisingly, is a nice lower carb drink compared to white wine. But again, a small amount of this is fine. You have to be able to live. You have to be able to enjoy time with people. As long as you're confident, you know how to then pull back from that and go back to the program. Stay positive. Not a problem. It's worth doing. Emma also asked about reading nutritional panels and how you would define low carb, and whether we look at total carbs or net carbs. So it's interesting. The Atkins people are very big on total carbs and net carbs. What that means is that when you look at the carbs of something, there's a total carbs in it, and then there's a fiber in it. And the philosophy is that the fiber basically binds the carbs, and if it's high fiber, then you don't count the carbs that's bound to the fiber. So things have a net carb, the fiber minus the total carbs. We don't waste our time with those. We think that it complicates things. We actually don't believe much in carb counting. We want people just to get a feel for what's higher in carb and what's lower in carb, what's healthier food, what's less healthy food, what's high GI food, that means food that the body sucks in the sugar really easily, and what's low GI food that the body has to work hard to suck in the sugar. So for us, when you look at the nutritional panel, you should look at it and say to yourself, that is mostly sugar, because out of 100 grams, it's got 40 or 50 grams of carbohydrates. Therefore, half of that is sugar. If it's got 5 to 10%, sounds good. Most people should be having, depending on what stage of the program they're up to, 100 grams of carbs a day, which allows you a lot. It's just recognizing where they're coming from and not trapping yourself. So most processed things are probably high in carbs. Most breads, rices, pastas, those sorts of things. So if you look at the percentage of carbs, they can range from 30 to 70%, which means a third to 3/4 of that food is sugar. I call them treats and desserts. So as long as you know the treats and desserts, enjoy them, but know what you're doing, and that makes it easier. Okay, Jasmine is asking whether it's possible to have too low calories that might prevent weight loss. So look, you can't break the laws of physics. If you have very, very little calories, you will lose weight. You'll just suffer a lot doing it, and your body will try very hard to stop you. And then when you get a chance to find food, it will aggressively make you hunt and find food just to get your weight back up to a weight that it's happy with. So the problem with too low calories is primarily you can come to nutritional deficiencies. You can get harmed by it because it's very hard to get all your nutrition in so little calories. The absolute bare minimum found is 800 calories, and that's only if you're taking a bunch of nutritional supplements, which is what those meal replacement products are. They're just giant vitamin pills in our eyes. They just give you the essential vitamins. You then have to add the protein that you need, the fiber that you need, and some of the other important things that you don't get from those bars and shakes. And that's why we don't try and do a very intense bar and shake program. We mix it up with food because we recognize that brains need food, and food is an important part of functioning and reassuring the brain that there is no famine and it doesn't have to aggressively defend your weight. So yes, it is not good to have too low calories, and how fast you lose weight will depend on how much calories you take and how much you metabolize and how metabolically active you are. So it's not a race, and you don't compare with each other. It's really a matter of what works for you. And if you're losing weight slowly, but it's easy, go for it. If you're losing weight fast and it's easy, go for it. If it's difficult, it doesn't matter if it's slow or fast. We need to fix it. We need to work out ways to make it manageable because you have to stick to it. You have to find ways to allow yourself to. And just using willpower and constant motivation and constant planning, it doesn't work. You need to reassure your control centers that it's okay to lose weight. You do that, it'll let you. Okay, the next question also from Jasmine, and she's wondering how long realistically is too long for not losing weight? And I guess this is something that a lot of people struggle with and have problems in that they hit a wall. And typically you hit that wall towards the end. So it's that last 5 to 10 kilos maybe, depending where you're at, but that last few kilos tend to be the absolute hardest. And I think it makes sense why. Your brain is saying, enough's enough. You've lost all this weight. You're trying to push it further. How much do you want to push this? Surely this is enough. And it will fight tooth and nail for that last bit. So it is difficult. And so most of that, sort of when we say the average weight you'll lose over the period and how quickly you'll lose, most of that's concentrated at the beginning, and then it slows down towards the end. So what we recommend is accept that it'll take longer and try and do it without the constant fight and struggle. So the more hungry you are, the more difficult it is. Yes, it's not going to work. It means your brain's aggressively defending. Sometimes it's worth taking a pause and defend and maintain for a while and then try again. That constant pressure to lose weight can often sabotage yourself. It's just too much tension and pressure. Other times, adding a drug, a medication for suppressing appetite can really make the difference. So most of us keep one medication up our sleeves that we keep as a final kind of backup plan that we can just add in, get you that final few kilos. It's not suitable for everybody, but there are ways to do it. Sometimes completely changing tack can make a difference. It rests the body, stops the body going to the brain from going to that constant defense mode, and just gives it a chance to settle. And then when you try again, it seems to work better. And lastly, of course, exercise can really help. Now, we don't push too much on exercise during our weight loss program because we know that when you try and exercise to lose weight, your brain says, well, do that, but give me more food for it. And it can trigger hunger and it can trigger cravings and make it difficult. So exercise is really important for fitness, wellness, and muscle tone, and really, really encourage people to do exercise. But we don't generally push people to exercise to lose weight unless you get into that last phase of it. And then we say, look, let's just see if you can ramp up exercise, keep it really tight, and get you over that hurdle. The other way I look at this is that your brain is playing chicken with you. So it's saying, I'm not going to swerve. I'm not going to stop this pressure. And you're saying, well, I'm going to keep doing this because I want to lose weight. And I know if I keep doing it, you can't sustain it. And so your brain and you are playing this chicken game, and one of you is going to swerve. And what we're suggesting is if you're not struggling hard and it's not difficult, then keep playing it. Keep staying solid. Eventually, your brain will have to give up and say, okay, we need to start using some of this energy, and it'll start using your stores. That's specifically for people who say, look, I'm doing everything right. I'm not hungry. It's not hard, but I'm not losing any weight. Then I say, look, just maybe hang in there and see if you can outlast and see what happens. Because most of the time, it will start shifting. Your body will have to say, well, look, I can't keep doing this. I need to lose weight. I need to use energy because they're not giving me any, and then it'll start burning your stores, and we start seeing people shift their weight again. Okay, I hope that was useful. These were very general answers, of course. If you have specific questions related to your particular needs, your Elina Doctor can definitely help you. I'll be around, so if you have any more questions, just put them into the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer them.